Welcome back to Glowing Success. Today, I have a very special episode. I am going to be talking with Andrea. She is the founder and co-owner of EvLo Lash Co. And we are going to be actually talking about UV lash extensions. So if you've heard about UV lashes or seen the videos of the cool little light, this is the episode for you. But welcome, Andrea.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Heck yeah, I love this. I've been doing lashes for 13 years, and so this is a great episode because I know a lot about lash extensions, but
Yeah.
there is going to be a lot of information I'm guessing we're sharing today that if you aren't a lash extension extraordinaire, you'll still be learning a lot. But Andrea, if people don't know who you are and your background and they're just kind of new to you, can you go into a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Actually, EvLo was founded in Montana. Currently, I'm in Texas. And it was founded because I got into lash extensions and I was a teacher for Bella Lash. And I just found that the kits needed like some more sustenance. So I started wholesaling, looking for vendors, looking for manufacturers. And I just kind of stumbled into EvLo. It was supposed to be like something to support my lash training career. And I just kind of kept going from there. And in 2023, we actually launched our UV system called the Halo. And that is what kind of propelled us more into kind of everybody's sight. Like we were kind of like this little company. We still are really little, just me and my husband that run the business. So if you email us, you're probably getting a message from my husband. He's amazing. He does all of the boring work, the spreadsheets and planning and budget. And I do the fun stuff like content and stuff like that and product development. But we were presented the UV concept from actually my manufacturer in about February of 2023. They said, hey, this is taking off. We recommend you use this. And I was very scared about UV. I was like, no way, Jose. I do not want like UV equals cancer. I do not want that. And I just thought it was a gimmick, because they're just trying to sell stuff too. And I decided to take the chance about July. I went to a lash conference and I was really challenged to just get out of your comfort zone and to try something new. And with that, I bought a sample and I used the UV. Actually, my 13-year-old daughter at the time, she was my first model. I went straight into, I opened a package and I used it on her. Because when I was actually like researching between the time of April and July, I was researching like the safety of it, like what does it mean? And the manufacturer kept on giving me information, and it was just very like, we know cyanoacrylate, we know these terms, we know pH, but when you're going into wavelengths and nanometers and wattages and stuff, it just gets really overwhelming. And so I couldn't comprehend it at the time. And so I spent like countless nights just researching, honestly, just Google search, reading documents, trying ChatGPT helping me, just trying to have that sort of armchair, knowledge, more than armchair, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I didn't go to church, I didn't go to school for a degree in this, but I'm as educated as you can be.
And also, these are the questions that if the internet has them, they're probably already been asked by other people. So I kind of like that style. And obviously, you get more in depth with your training. You get more in depth with the manufacturing. But those common questions, I think actually it's good to know those common questions.
I agree. And that's exactly why I started, like when I started developing the products, I knew that there was a lack of education within like the lash education realm. And so I started developing my own, because I am the type of person, I want to know, why is humidity something that even like people would say humidity, and I'm like, okay, but why? And nobody could answer these questions. Or they're saying
that polymer bond, people, that polymer bond.
And they were saying like, give hydrocodones or what is it called? Like the allergy pill for somebody who has an allergic reaction. And I'm like, no, like we need to be more educated. And so that's what like I'm really about. Like if I don't know, if I'm not confident in something, I don't know the safety, I don't know how it works, I don't know the chemistry, everything. I don't feel confident in like having it, especially being a brand that is bringing out stuff. You have to make sure that you are being safe. And that is the biggest thing.
I do. I agree. I was surprised. So I started training lash extensions. Gosh, I don't even know when now. Maybe 2014.
Oh,
I think
wow.
I started training people in 2014. And one
Wow.
of the things I was very surprised that a lot of the other trainings at that time didn't go over is cyanoacrylate. Now,
Yeah.
if you're new to the lash extension world, cyanoacrylate is the adhesive that pretty much everybody uses all over the world.
Yes.
There's no, I think there's one brand in Canada that doesn't use
Yeah.
cyanoacrylate, but I don't,
It's another acrylate of some sort, and I can't remember
yes,
what it is.
it's another polymer bond, I'm guessing.
Yes.
And but other than that, it doesn't matter what country, what state, where you're at, you're using cyanoacrylate if you're doing
Yes.
lash extensions. The
Yes.
only difference in people's branding is branding, number one, the
Yeah.
viscosity, number two. So is it thin?
Mhm.
Is it thick? And then color additives. So obviously cyanoacrylate, let's say you got it at like 3M or something in
Mhm.
its
Mhm.
most raw state, usually it comes clear. So the lash extension industry, they wanted to add a color to it. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Mhm.
And so those are the differences. So if somebody labels something, and I love busting this myth online, if somebody labels something as sensitive,
Yeah, or
it's still
formaldehyde free.
it's for formaldehyde free. It's still cyanoacrylate. It's still, so I always tell people if your client does have a reaction,
Mhm.
they're probably always going to have a reaction, no matter if you use a sensitive formula or something, because they're probably allergic to acrylic based items. And
Mhm.
so anyway, that's a whole conversation. But
I
I
know.
love
I
that
could go
you
into that too.
I know, but I love that you dove into that as a company, because I do feel like there is something in that knowledge that we have about the actual product of its properties, how it does what it's supposed to do, and so forth. So let's dive right into that. So if people are like UV lash, okay, what is the whole process? So let's say you're
Yeah.
having somebody listen. If you're listening and if you've never even seen this online, what can we tell you? So you wear a headlamp. I know
Yes.
that's number one.
Well, that is a new product that we just launched,
Okay,
is the headlamp. But
cool,
I do have like two of our models right here if we want to bring them in frame.
cool.
So these are they call them like a gooseneck
Okay.
light, so that it just kind of hovers over your working area. So you do have to change if you're a lash artist that likes to go left eye, right eye, and kind of like bounce
Mm-hmm.
back and forth. You do have to alter it a little bit. So
Okay.
because you are instantly curing the lashes, you can work lash by lash is what it's called. So it's like
You could
literally
just work on one eye at a time.
yes.
Okay,
And so
that's
when
interesting.
I was getting used to it, I kind of would do like inner corner and do that little segment and then bounce to because I was like kind of used to it,
Going back and
like
forth.
going back and forth just
Yep,
because
me
that's what my
too.
training. And
Yep.
so going from like literally lashing one eye and then lashing a whole nother eye was different, because then I had to be more aware of like my time and make sure like, okay, if I'm spending like I usually book an hour and a half, if I'm
Yeah,
spending an
me
hour
too.
on one eye, I only have 30 minutes for the
Or
other eye.
just
I need
like,
to make sure.
or symmetry. Like I
Yes,
like to go back and forth
symmetry.
just for symmetry.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
that's why we developed the headlamp, is so then
Yes.
you can bounce back and forth wherever you are looking is where you are lashing. So,
Cool.
and it's not on a tweezer. So it's not like adding heaviness to your hand. It's
I've
not on
seen
your
that.
wrist.
I've
It's
seen that
nothing
too.
like, yeah. And those ones we did test and we were trying to figure it out. But I was like, okay, I want something that where if somebody is getting into this, and it's a
Yeah.
really good thing for people who are like travel lash artists or
Yep.
people that maybe don't have a big studio, like maybe you already have your overhead light and then adding another light over it is just too much like clutter.
Yeah.
The headlamp would be like the perfect thing. So going back to what is UV lashing, essentially it is light cured lashing is kind of
Okay.
what it used to be called UV lashing. You might hear light cured lashing. They're all the same.
Okay.
It's just really marketing terms. So
Okay.
essentially the light itself is an LED UV light. So if somebody
Okay.
says it's an LED light, unless they are really getting out of the UV wavelength, most of
Right.
them are going to be within the UV wavelength. So
Okay.
a lot of people will think like, oh, UV lights are kind of so outdated, but they're thinking of the lights that you used to put your hand underneath, and
Right.
they were actually like incandescent bulbs, I believe is what they're called. And those were like really harsh UV lights. So you're still putting your hand in an LED curing light when
Right.
you're getting your nails done. It's just UV wavelength. So there's different wavelengths. The light in your room, the light in front of me, your overhead light has different wavelengths. So the wavelength of the light coming out is a shorter wavelength. And so that is at the very end of the UV/visible light. So that's why when it's projected out, you can see the purple light, is because it is at that cusp of UV light being, you can't see it. Like, you're not going to be able to see the rays from the sun into
that spectrum.
Yes, exactly. Okay. And then the adhesive is special because it has a special chemical called a photoinitiator. So if you look at the back of our ingredients, we're very basic ingredients. It's like ethyl cyanoacrylate, polymethyl methacrylate, and then the photoinitiator. And the photoinitiator is the one special ingredient that deciphers it between like a regular adhesive, between a UV adhesive. And we have actually 4 different ones. And black is the most recent one that came out because the wavelength of the light needs to get through the adhesive. Most of them are clear or mostly clear. But a black one was really hard to develop. We spent like 1.5 years in developing it and testing it a lot to make sure that the wavelength would get through and that it would fully cure. So it is a fully black adhesive, but it can be cured with a UV light. So it's
very similar. If you're used to working with black adhesive, you'll be used to that. The clear adhesive, it's not really that much harder to work with. I mean, if you're an experienced lasher, I would say like a clear adhesive is pretty easy. I will say though, if you're a beginner lasher, it is easier to work with black just because I don't know, there's just something about it.
We have a purple one for people who are like wanting, and people are wondering like, does the purple even show up? Like if you were to do a vivid set or something like that, you're not going to really see it because it's like a tiny bit of a hue. You'd have to be so close to somebody to even maybe see it. And even then, I don't think you're going to be able to decipher, the color of it. So the different adhesives are used. And essentially, like I said, the light hits the UV adhesive and speeds up the curing because that photoinitiator essentially reads the UV rays. We're going to just kind of break it down in layman's terms instead of like scientific terms, because it can be we could get a little heady with it, and we can lose a lot of people just right now.
But it cures it faster, basically.
Yes, exactly. It's instantly. And so it's literally like I do this on, a lot of times I do like lives on TikTok or lives on Instagram, and I literally put like a dot of glue and then I'll cure it with the light. And within 2 seconds, it's fully hardened. So we're not talking just dry, we're talking fully cured. And so that's what makes it different between like regular adhesive. You're using the environment. You have to have that humidity. Yes. And the lower the temperature, the lower the humidity. And so the longer it'll take to cure. And so that's why usually in like summer versus winter, you need to switch up your glues because the humidity drops.
Or like here,
arid.
Here in Minnesota, I always have to add a humidifier in the wintertime in my room because we have so much heat going on and so forth. But we're very humid here in the summertime. And so it's interesting because I just switch up my room, but not necessarily my adhesives. And so, but this sounds amazing if you're actually like in any sphere of lashing. So, it sounds to me like this system would be really good if you're a beginner lasher. It'd be really good if you're an experienced lasher, because that cure time sometimes is where people, it's, if you're a beginner lasher, sometimes if you pick an adhesive that is like more of a medium viscosity, it actually doesn't help you because yes, you're kind of focusing on focusing on putting that extension on the hair. But like, actually, sometimes you need a quicker adhesive when you're training because you want that thing to work as soon as you put it on there, because sometimes it's really hard to put it on there,
with like when you're training with like those mannequins, and synthetic on synthetic does not bond.
Does not bond.
With UV it does.
Okay. So this is easier for training. I like this. I like this.
I actually just made content for like some like volume and mega volume content, and I was using traditional glue, and I was like, oh my gosh,
you're like, this is the worst. So you're saying once you go over to UV Lash, you don't go back?
Not really. No, not at all. I've opened maybe one glue for like a client, but other than that, in the 19 months that I've been using it, or longer, I guess now, I really never use traditional glue.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now, I have a couple questions for you.
Yeah.
So obviously we're still using cyanoacrylate, but it's a little different cyanoacrylate. So you can't
Yes.
just use any cyanoacrylate adhesive with this light and it won't cure it. So
Yes.
we kind of went through that. The other thing I kind of want to ask you too is like, is there any health related risks? So obviously other than people just having reactions to acrylic based items, obviously that's a given if you're doing
Yeah.
extensions. If there are any other risks to the light, like, if people have epilepsies, things like that.
Okay, so as far as epilepsy, I think it has to be like a strobing light.
Yeah,
So we always like when in doubt, always refer to a doctor.
for
That's what
sure,
we
for
always
sure.
say. But there is a couple of things that might make somebody more photosensitive, is what the term is
Yep.
called. When you're getting into now, we're adding light into your lashing. So before
Right.
you would maybe just look for like certain medications, but now we're looking for certain conditions or medications that might make the skin a little bit more vulnerable.
Okay.
But with that said, there's a caveat. The light is so gentle. Even walking outside for 60 seconds is like the equivalent, like you could use that UV light continually pressed for like more than 11 minutes to even equal that time.
Okay.
And when you're doing like a full set of lashes, like 300 lashes
Mm-hmm.
approximately
Mm-hmm.
is, if you're pressing it for 2 seconds at a time, that's 10 minutes of exposure. So you're actually like, a lot of people
Very
get more
small.
exposure getting like walking into their lash appointment than they will actually using the light. But
Okay.
with that said, we always want to make sure we're not damaging the skin. So if somebody
Of
got,
course.
let's say, maybe an aggressive peel, a lot
Right.
of the contraindications are very similar for
To normal.
UV. Yes,
Okay.
because you're really just having to just make sure that the skin isn't broken or compromised.
Okay.
As far as like certain quality of ingredients you should look for. So adhesives, there is a photo initiator and it's 0.01% or 0.1% of the formula. So it's very, very small percentage. But within that, we found that having your photo initiator can cause certain issues. So if you're using an adhesive that maybe has like what is called TPO, it's a big, long, chemical name,
Mm-hmm.
but the
Mm-hmm.
short form of it is TPO. And if somebody is pregnant and you are lashing on them, it can actually potentially cause birth defects and or other issues. So if they're a
Okay.
nursing mom or pregnant mom, don't use it. But our adhesives are BPO or BAPO and TPO free. So
Okay.
our
So very
adhesives,
specific.
yeah. So within that, and that's what we learned through like, looking at all the ingredients is like when I'm
Mm-hmm.
developing a product, I go and I search all the key, CAS numbers and I
Yes.
make sure there's nothing like in the US that is forbidden, and in
Yes.
the EU
Yes.
because we ship
Yes.
to the EU as well, and the EU
That's awesome.
is more
Way more strict.
strict. Yes, and so a lot of our standards are EU standards, but
Okay.
the
That's
United
great.
States, like it usually kind of follows suits with the EU. So,
Yeah. They'll accept it, but they just won't accept ours.
yeah.
That's why I had you on the show today. Okay. You did all your research and I saw that. Now, what if somebody wants to pick up this adhesive and get the headlamp from you, but they have a lot of lash extensions? Can you use this with any extensions?
Yeah, so you can use it with literally any
Okay.
pro-made, pre-made,
Cool.
classic lash, YY lash. There's no specific type of fiber that you need to use. If you're
Okay.
looking for a good quality lash, we do sell
Of
them.
course.
But
Of
if you already
course.
have like, if you're the type of lash artist that stocks
You have a
up and you
ton.
have a stock
Yeah.
and you're investing in the light, that's already an
Yes.
investment. You don't have to invest in, your 20 different curls and lengths and diameters and pre-mades
Yeah.
and pro-mades. You can use what you have.
Okay.
And
Cool.
some people have found like maybe some preferences within that, but
Of
other than
course.
that, like there's not any specific like special fibers.
Thing.
I did
I
want
love
to
that.
go back to real quick
Yeah.
like the things with, you were talking about the risks with the light or anything like
Yes.
that. Like
Yes.
just with the light itself, we want to make sure that the lash client has their eyes closed.
Of
And so a
course.
lot of people
Okay.
are like, oh my gosh, you're going to cause somebody to be blind. Well, you're not lashing them with their eyes open.
No. No.
And within that, like I said, the exposure is so low that it's like a
Yeah.
lot of times they can kind of see the glow, but it's not affecting their cornea. It's not, you're
No.
not looking straight into the light. So
Nope.
we're not risking it that way. And then as far as the practitioner, the lash artist, it is recommended to wear UV blocking glasses, and we do sell them. We sell different types. So if you're somebody who is already wears glasses and you're like, okay, I can't wear safety glasses over my glasses, we do have clip-ons for those type of people. I personally wear a yellow tinted because I am very photosensitive myself. Like even when I get lash extensions and they turn on the overhead light. Yes, exactly. And whenever I got my lashes done and they would turn on the overhead light, I would feel like so blinded and my eyes were closed. And so
you know.
And that was like not even UV. That was like just the overhead light. I'm like, oh,
I love this.
And so I personally wear the yellow blocking. And even when I'm not doing UV, I still wear the yellow blocking just because I did get a lot of like fatigue. So depending,
after doing lashes for a long time, you can have that. Like for me, my wrists and my hands are just not as strong as they were when I first started lashing. So years ago, I had to start using ProMades instead of my volumes because I just couldn't anymore, and I couldn't pick up my speed. And so I was just like, every once in a while you gotta, but that's the nature. That is the beauty of the lash extension world, being so adaptive, having so many options. I love that. But I love that you share that you're sensitive with that, because I'm sure that's a question that people are thinking about, like what is the protection for me now? Do you have to wear the glasses, or can you just go without?
It's not required. You do not have to wear them
because the exposure is very short. You're saying
it's very very minimal. If any of this exposure is coming to the lash artist, it's like the reflected light. So any of the lash pads or lash tape, it might just be reflected. And so that's where you get like maybe just fatigue. And so it's recommended. It's not required. Some people are like, I have to wear them. And some people are like, no, I don't wear them at all. So it's a case by case. Like if you're getting fatigued, like put them on. And they're called a UV 400 blocking. So they block the UV light up to 400 nanometers. And that's what our lights are rated at, is at 400 nanometers. So
I love this. Now, does this affect retention? I mean, that's a huge question in the lash world, right? We're always trying to get the best retention out of all the adhesives we got. And we all know it. So if you've been doing lashes for a while, you know that there's a lot of combinations when it comes to retention. It comes to making sure the lash is clean, right? We're cleaning those lashes. We're making sure we have a good base of a lash that's clean. How you apply your adhesive, how much application of adhesive, where you apply your adhesive. Are you, stroking the lash and then tugging out? There's all sorts of techniques, right? The client themselves, they need to take care of it at home. So I will say, in the lash extension world, it's a big conversation when it comes to retention. So let's put that in front of this. Let's preface with that. But does UV lash adhesives in the process of UV, does it affect it in any way?
Actually, it affects it to the positive effect. That was something that I personally, I've been lashing for 7 years. And I honestly just didn't equate that oily skin would cause any issues, but I had a couple clients that I just couldn't get my retention, and I had great retention. I had people that could go 4 weeks without having to come in. They had great retention, but then I'd have some people
oily lashes
couldn't even make it. Yeah, I couldn't even make it 2 weeks. That's actually what sold me on the system. Is one of my clients who's super oily, and I lashed one client with one eye with traditional lash adhesive, and then I lashed one eye with UV lash adhesive, and her retention, it was crazy. When she came back 2 weeks later, her right eye, I only had to spend 20 minutes on. Her left eye, I had to spend close to an hour on. So it was a really shock to me, is there is a little bit of a learning curve as far as starting to do it. But once you get all transition to UV glue, your retention goes up. And so a lot of times I now have my clients, I had to add a service onto my menu for longer retention. So I personally book, I don't go 2 week, my gosh, I don't go 2 week, 3 week like that, because somebody would book a 3 week and they don't know what 3 weeks is. They look at the calendar and it's it's the week past, So I go days. So I go 21 days past, and then 22 to 28 days, 29 to 34 days. And then
where that lash cycle hits. Yeah.
Yes. And then I believe I do have a 35 to something, 38. So
your clients know. It's a little easier for them too.
And it's easier for me as a lash artist to be like,
Right.
hey, it's been 22 days. We're booking the next one up. And
Yep.
so it takes a lot of pressure off of me because before I would have a 2 week and a 3 week and then a 4 week. But for me, it's days. So
Okay.
that's something that I actually had to add is like,
You're
okay,
like,
now
this is
I have,
exciting.
I know there's one client that she came in at like 8 weeks, which was, of course, it's a full set, like, of course.
Yes, yes,
But
yes.
she had lashes still on. Like,
And you're like, this is impressive. This is
beginner me
impressive.
would be like, how did you do that? Like, I
Yes.
struggled as a beginner. Like, as a beginner, if this was on the market, oh my gosh.
You would have loved, I know, right?
I even took like a $1,200 training with Nova Lash just to get certified, just to get their adhesive, to spend
Mm-hmm.
$150 a month for their little, and I did get good retention, but
Of
this
course.
is like
Beyond
the
that.
fumes of
That's
that
exciting.
adhesive compared to this adhesive does not compare.
So things are just better. I always tell people I do lashes very differently. I have clients come in just once a month. So I
Oh,
always
wow.
tell people I want you to come in after your lash cycle. I don't want people
Okay.
coming until they're lash cycling because it just doesn't make sense. Then you always have that weird 2 week thing. Then you always have the people who they'll shed right after they come in. So like, but I always tell
Yes.
people I run my lash business much differently than most
I love
people.
that. I
And
want to hear
it
more
works.
about that actually.
And then for that reason, I just charge a flat rate. So the only difference in
I
price is
love
what
that.
technique they choose. So classic,
I
classic,
see.
volume. But I think there's so many different ways you can charge out there. There's so many different ways you can do things out there. But this
Yeah.
makes it, from what I'm understanding, you're going to have longer retention. You're going to have clients,
Yeah.
coming in with a little bit more fullness, which we all know that means that your clients are going to be happier. Your clients are going to probably,
100%.
you know what I mean? They're going
Lash
to,
retention is client
yeah,
retention.
it is. It really is.
If you don't coordinate that, like I've had
Yes.
people that they might go
Yes.
to the best lash artist, but they're falling out within a day. They're
Yeah.
falling out within a week. They're getting the hey
Right.
girl text.
Right.
Like, I don't have any more hey girl texts. Like, I
Right.
have not had a hey girl text since I switched to the UV system.
That's
and when
amazing.
you're placing your lash and you're curing it, you can feel that it's attached. Whereas with
Right.
traditional glue, you have to sit there
I
and you
know.
place it on, and then you just gotta leave it. You gotta
Yep.
like pray to the lash
Leave
god
that
that
isolation alone.
like go, like don't even look at it. It
I
might
love
fall off.
this.
So I
So
can tell if a lash is attached like instantly.
I love this. And,
Yeah.
and that's why you can work on one, lash line at a time if you really wanted to.
Yeah, and you can speed it up too when you're going
I
like
love
lash to
this.
lash. You're not having to like try and find your isolation, because
I was just gonna say
when you're
that.
bouncing around, you're like
Yeah.
mushing all the
Yes.
lashes. But if you're
Yes.
going lash by lash, you can kind of see the next one. So you're like, usually if I'm doing promades like you,
Yeah. Yeah.
like you can be picking up your next one while you're curing because
That's
it's
crazy.
hands free. You're
That's crazy.
pressing it with a foot, so then you
Crazy.
can already have your next one in hand, ready to
Love
go and
this.
place. So it's like so much more speedy. It's honestly,
And so let's talk about the
it's the
learning
future.
curve.
Yeah.
Because people are probably curious about that.
Yes.
If you're listening and you're like, this sounds amazing, it sounds too good to be true, don't worry about that. We're going to debunk all the things that you're thinking in your head. Okay. So I saw on your website that you offer, there's two different kind of trainings, but you do have online training and in person.
Yeah.
But it sounds to me like, obviously in person, you have to find something that's in your area.
Yeah.
So that might be a little harder for some people, just depending on
Yes.
where they live and if trainers are in their area. So I'm guessing a lot of people, they come and they take your online training.
Yes.
Now, I usually suggest people doing online training if they've already been doing lashes.
Yes.
That's just my own recommendation. Obviously, people do what you will with that because lash extensions is one of those skills that I do truly believe that it is helpful to have somebody there with you when you're first learning
100%.
it.
I
So
agree.
if that's you and you're listening and you're like, I'm a beginner lash person, I don't know what I'm doing, or I want to get into lashes, please go seek out this
Yes.
training.
In
Go
person will
to
change
it.
your life.
In
Yes.
person will change your life. I also think that going to lash conferences, those will change your
Oh,
life.
yeah. Yes.
One of my lash conferences back in the day, I'll go on this little thing and then we'll talk about training. But I went to this lash conference way back in the day. It was in Arizona, and there was a chemist there. Oh gosh, Dr. Shun. I want to say his name is Dr. Shun. I'll look that up.
David
Anyway,
Shun.
yep, he's mostly a nail guy. So like he mostly
Yes.
works with the nail industry, but he was there because he was like, I want to educate you guys on cyanoacrylate. You guys just seem, and at this time, mind you, it was, it had just been in the United States like less than 10 years extensions were. So
Wow.
I will say like extensions were still very new to America, very new to, so like a lot of people just didn't have information. This was at the time where you had to have people wait 24 to 36 hours before they got their lashes wet.
Yeah.
So let's just like, okay. So anyway, and this is when lashes were sold in little trays when they were loose, you know?
Oh
So
my
anyway,
gosh.
that's where I started. Okay. So my lash
Back in
journey
the
has
dark
come,
ages.
I know my lash journey's come a long way, um, but Dr. Shun, he was great because he really went into cyanoacrylate in a way that it impacted me. So I highly suggest if you're able to
Yeah.
go to some lash conferences, you're going to
Yes.
learn some things. You're going to open up your world a little bit. You're going to
Yeah.
be exposed to people that are, you know, have all these cool things. But what I will say is if you have been doing lashes for a while and you're listening and you're like, I think I want to pick up this program because I just think it's going to be a game changer. The online program sounds amazing. Now, what do you guys, obviously you guys go into everything.
Yeah,
Right.
so we're not really teaching a technique per se.
Right.
We're teaching a technology. So that's the
Right.
difference is like we're not teaching how to fan lashes. We're not even teaching you how to apply lashes. We are
Right.
teaching you the safety
The light.
of the light, how like the science of it, because like I said, I am somebody who has to know how it works in and out. If a client's going to ask me, I don't want to be like, I don't know. Like
Yeah.
I have to know.
Yeah.
And so I have like I even went into my training like what are the lash fibers made out of? Because
Yep.
somebody was like, I'm allergic to wool. Is cashmere wool?
Most are
I didn't
synthetic, but
know.
yes.
Yeah, I didn't know. That's when Lashbox LA first
Yeah.
got their cashmere. I was like, I don't know, but I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's just a brand.
Yeah, so we're really just teaching a technology. So we're teaching you how to safely use that, how to like troubleshoot it, you know, all of that kind of stuff. So it's a very brief, maybe an hour long.
Okay.
There is some modules in there on like videos and stuff. And so
Okay.
we've had a couple hundred people take our courses because they are included free with all of our light kits. So
Okay.
you're not only just getting the light and like a couple extra things to start your, you know, UV lash journey, you're
Right.
also getting certified. And sometimes
Right.
in some countries, they do need a certification for insurance purposes. And so
Yep.
this provides that. Like we've been able to help accredit like a couple lash academies in the UK by taking our course, getting that certification and showing that they are certified to be able to, you know, teach UV lashing. So it's really just a technology and the science and chemistry and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So it's very easy.
Which is
It's all
amazing.
on, you can do it on your phone. You can do it on your computer. It is only in English at this point. We're hoping
Okay.
to translate because we do have some, you know, a lot of Spanish speaking, a lot of, you know,
Yep.
French speaking. We are worldwide. So
Amazing.
wherever we've just sold to Malaysia the other day. That's crazy.
It's amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
Congrats.
So I don't know what language I speak there, but I'm hoping that with AI, you
Yeah.
know, we'll be able
Yeah.
to translate. But anyway, all that to say, it's all online, easy peasy. If somebody already has a UV light from a
Like a
from a
different company.
different company, a different model. Usually they all are very similar. And so
Okay.
if somebody's like, I want to know more, maybe they got, you know, a different brand
Yeah.
and they're like, I just need a little bit more of a grasp on it. We do sell it separately for those
Okay.
people, but it is the perk of buying our light because
Okay.
you're getting it free. You're not having to pay for it when you buy our kit.
Yeah.
So you can upgrade your light, get onto our program, get to the Halo, and then you can get certified as well.
I love that. And, you
Yeah.
know, that little bit of, and, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. We've all taken training in our time that we need a little extra training after, or
Yeah.
we found that maybe another company gives us the type of support that we actually are craving and needing.
Right.
And sometimes we don't know that until we go in our journey, right? And so, no shame in the game on here, right? Like if you bought a light from somebody else, that's great too. But like it sounds to me like
Exactly.
things are relatively similar. There's obviously certain things that are different with your brand because you know, like the headlamp and just how they're positioned and things like that. Things are a little bit easier. Obviously, you've been using it for a while too. So I love companies and I like supporting companies where the people who are in the company selling whatever you're selling are like really hands-on with it. So either the service provider themselves or they've come from a place of I used to use this because I think there's just so much knowledge that happens in doing things, right?
Yes.
You know what I
You
mean?
can feel
And
the
so
pain of like the lash
yes,
artist. Like, what are their
yes, you
pain points?
know,
Like, what do you need? What
yeah,
can make your life better? I'm always searching
yes,
for what can make somebody's life, lashing life easier. Like
yes,
maybe ProMades are too, you know, expensive. We have an
right,
alternative for that as well. So,
right.
yeah, it's
I love
like
that because
yeah.
you know what lash artists go through. And I think
Yes.
that's really unique too, because there's
Yep.
not all brands are like that out there. Like some brands are
Agreed.
just purely brands, and people who
Mm-hmm.
make them are great. They're
Business
business
people. Yep.
owners,
Yep.
but they don't necessarily know the things that we go through as service providers when we're actually lashing, we're actually in that
I
room, we're
agree.
actually with those clients, we're actually hearing what the clients are saying, or
100%.
so I love that about so
Yeah.
online classes, in-person
Yes.
classes, you guys
Mhm.
have your lamp, you guys have certifications, you're all over the world.
Yeah.
Wow, this is amazing.
We're not
Now,
stopping
I
either. This
know.
is
Yeah,
just the beginning.
I was just gonna say that. You really sound like you're passionate. You guys have really just found systems that
Thank
work.
you.
You found products that work for you. You obviously found manufacturers that are willing to work with your vision.
Yes.
I think those are really big things, because that's really what it takes in this industry. We're a
I
very
agree.
unique industry. The beauty
Yeah.
industry is just unique in so many ways, and so we need all of our businesses to be the same
Yeah.
in the uniqueness.
Yeah.
So we've talked a little bit about that, but so if people want to take your training, if people want to find out more about this, where can they find you? Where can
Well,
they
you'll find
get
us on
this?
every platform, on literally on
Okay.
every platform, but our website is evlolash.com. And on there, no matter where you're listening, if you're in the US or if you're in the EU, in the UK, or in Australia, you can change it to your currency and your language, and it will translate. So evlolash.com is the best place to just find our products. But as far as like asking questions, getting a little bit more information, I personally am the only person that replies to our DMs. So if you message us on any platform, I will reply to you. So I'm the one that gives, like, it might be a voice note, it might be a video to help you understand a little bit better, it might be one of our blog posts to kind of help you feel a little bit more confident, because that's the biggest thing, is like people are just scared. So we want to make them, just educated. Honestly, like, education is key. So, and then if you email us, info@evlolash.com, you will get a reply. It might be from my lovely husband, but he
Love it.
also inquires with me if there's anything he's like not sure about. He will have me kind of do stuff, but he's pretty much a certified lash artist himself.
I love that. So is my husband, I feel like.
By proxy, like
They
by
know too much.
osmosis.
Yes.
Yes.
But I love that you guys are very hands-on. You're answering the questions, because like there's
Mm.
no silly questions out there, people.
Yeah,
There's
no,
no
not at
silly
all.
questions. Like, just ask away.
Yes.
Through this whole process of even asking you to be on my podcast, you've been very warm, welcoming,
Thank
and
you.
I love that, because not everybody's like that, I will say. Anything so, and it's the same on Instagram, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
EvLo
Instagram, EvLo
Lash
Lash Co.
Co.
So
Okay.
on every social platform, it's at EvLo Lash Co. So YouTube, Facebook. We do have a special
Awesome.
UV group on Facebook.
Okay.
So there's a couple out there. I highly
Yes.
suggest going and being a part of them. Some of them you have to have like bought their brand, but some of them are just like open information. So ours
Love
is
that.
UV LED support system, I believe.
Okay.
And I'm the admin of that. And
Okay.
there's a lot of like, that's a great place, because you get
Yes.
not only my expertise and kind of can scroll, because that's how I learned a lot of stuff, was like Facebook groups.
I love
I would
Facebook
just go
groups.
in and say, yeah, I know. I
You're
go
learning from
on.
other people and their
Yes.
questions,
Yes.
and
And we have
love
a couple
that.
thousand people on there from worldwide.
Okay.
And so that's a great place too. But
I love
TikTok at EvLo Lash Co. And I go live on TikTok quite more frequently than I do on any other platform,
Okay.
just because it's just a little bit more easy.
It
But
is.
at EvLo Lash Co., pretty much on anything, you'll find me. So
Cool. And of course, we will put this in the show notes, you guys. So you can always
yes.
just click away on the show notes. Well, Andrea, thank you for being on today. It was such a good conversation about UV lashes.
Thank you. I'm so excited to have shared. I felt nervous at the beginning, but now I'm just like, I'm expressing what I'm passionate about, and the nerves instantly went away. So
I love that.
I love it. Oh my God.